I don't know if he's going to respond. We need to pray for the best. We need to prepare for the worst. If Patriarch Bartholomew does not do something to help solve these two problems, the problem of Spiridon and the problem of Orthodox disunity in the U.S., during this trip, then it's going to be up to us to solve these problems ourselves without his help if we have to. And we can do it. We built this church. We can keep it. Our time is short, however. The Clergy Laity Congress in Orlando is only 8 months away. If we don't make our voices heard there, it could be our last Clergy Laity Congress. There was some question about whether this one would even go forward, but apparently it is, thank God. We will have at least one more opportunity to make our voices heard. So after Patriarch Bartholomew leaves, the choice is ours. We either speak up and we keep our church, or we shut up and we lose it.
Thank you, Steve. I think now we'll have the opportunity for some questions, answers, comments. I know that in the original invitation, I think that we were invited to come from, 7:30 to 9:30? And so we have about a half an hour left. What I'd like to do is spend maybe 20 minutes on questions and answers, and then I would like Timmy to come forward and talk about some resolutions that have been adopted by other groups similar to this, which I think are pretty straightforward. And maybe if you find that they're agreeable to you, we could think about doing something about them. If you find that that's not something that you want to do, that's perfectly all right as well. But I would like to start by entertaining questions. Anyone have something that they would like to say or ask?
I have a question.
Yes, sir. To whom are you? Would you please identify yourself?
My name is Verna. I've lived in Los Angeles all my life. Member of the Board of Trustees of the St. Sophia Foundation.
Yes, sir.
Was a member of the parish council. I was an altar boy at the old church before St. Sophia was done. My question relates to Mr. Angelides. We talk about spirit, and we say what he is doing. Now, what makes us think that Archbishop Spiridon is basically a puppet of the patriarch? And he is speaking for the patriarch. Does anybody doubt that?
Well, let's see. Steve, would you like to reply? Dr. Colas, would you also?
I like to assume the best about people. I don't have any proof that he's a puppet of the Patriarch. I know he was chosen for his loyalty to the Patriarch. You can read that on Voithia if you go back to the encyclical announcing his appointment. I know he was a classmate of the Patriarch. I'm not prepared to call him a puppet yet. I only suspect that that might be the case.
I didn't call him one. I'm asking.
I do not have the evidence to support that charge at this point, and I will not make. I'm an administrative law judge. I apply the same standards to what I say here that I apply to my decisions. I will not make a statement that's not supported by fact. We don't know. Those are very good questions.
It's money, right?
It,
It's money.
the question is that what is the motive? We are investigating. And as we investigate, the situation reveals itself a little bit at a time. And that's how we're going to find this out. That's all I can say at this point.
Do you have a comment?
It's hard to add to a judge, you know that. Those are very important questions. You recall I said that there are many who have begged for a meeting. Why can't we have a meeting? Why can't we meet? Why can't we discuss? Why isn't he forthcoming? He certainly knows everything that's happening. Spiridon is here because His All Holiness Bartholomew put him here. His All Holiness is responsible. Those are facts. I can't fill in, as the judge said, I can't fill in anything more than that. The 50 million, selling the school, these are all unsubstantiated rumors. There's probably some truth in all of that. Spiridon is here because His All Holiness sent him here. His All Holiness is not helping us. It's wonderful that he spreads the word of Orthodoxy throughout our great country. Very important, very impressive, very proper. But we have a crisis. We need his help. He can't continue to let us down.
I have a question.
And then over there, second question after. Okay?
Aravosis is my name, and I don't need to be a judge or a medical doctor, although I've got a PhD in the Department of Science to get over some of the rhetoric. I think in your subtle ways, both of you have tried to inflame us. One talked about money going to Turkey, or I'm sorry, in the correct code, we answered Turkey, said Dr. Collins, and yet we're not answering to Turkey. We're talking about the dinar in Turkey, which has to be in Turkey. It's got nothing to do with Turkey. Judge Haikalis said that he talked about in reference to the Greek church as being a ghetto, ethnic boundaries, within ethnic boundaries. And he talked about Orthodox diversity. So in listening to all of this and reading Boethia, I want to know, where do you want to take us? I think this unity is created, to me, when I go into a church and I hear no Greek. I feel kind of pushed apart from a tradition of 2,000 years. Your organization has been developed for the last 10 years, and yet you want to bring, I think, a fall, I believe, from what I read from Boethia, to this great unity that's existed for 2,000 years. Where do you want to lead us? I mean, I have a sincere question. Where do you want to take us? I think I dislike what I hear about the Archbishop. I don't like to see this kind of action taking place at the seminary or throughout all of the diocese. But where do you want to take us? What is the next thing? Does it develop? You talk about decentralizing. Decentralizing is the vogue today, and you talk about centralizing a pan-Orthodox church in America. What do you want to take us?
I was quoting Metropolitan Theodosius's remarks. Those were not my words. I was quoting those so that you would know the extent of the public strength of the public statements that are being made. SCOBA has never had to go public with its concerns before. This is the first time. This was an important step on Metropolitan Theodosius's part to not try and do something unique, to try and do something, restore the path that the bishops had embarked on under Bartholomew's call through Spiridon back in 1994. The future of the church in this country, and I'm not talking now, I'm not talking 10 years from now, I'm talking 100 years from now, 200 years from now, is undoubtedly a United Orthodox Church. Our organization here is non-canonical. Our canons say one bishop in each geographic region, and the flames were sent down on Pentecost with the idea that you are going to go to every country and you are going to transform that country. You are going to evangelize that country, and you are going to sanctify that country. If we are going to sanctify this country, we're going to do it together. Now, I'm not advocating an immediate united Orthodox Church this moment. Okay? We've got much more crucial and serious matters to attend to. I didn't pick this fight. I got involved. That's why I told you so much about myself. I got involved to support my priest. The fight was picked by somebody else who's trying to, I don't know what they're trying to do, but what the effect of what they're doing is not to take us forward, but to take us backward. All I would like to do is get us back in the direction that we were on before we were so rudely interrupted by having our archbishop fired. In terms of how we're going to solve these problems, in terms of when we're going to solve these problems, these are not for me to say. These are for us to say. This is for our collective wisdom by the Holy Spirit speaking through us to come to.
If I have inflamed the group, I'm glad. If I have offended you, I am truly sorry.
Mike, do you have a question?
I have a question of Dr. Colas. As a member of the leadership of... Oh, Michael Captain. Let's say Captain. As a member of Leadership 100, and could you expand for us the relationship of the funds that have been either earmarked or frozen for a time? There's been some discussion that some funds, $10 million or maybe $12 or $14 million of monies developed over the years through Leadership 100 and other donations that came through that process, have been frozen or put aside until there's been some sort of definition of what the Archdiocese is planning to do or what the direction of the Archbishop is doing. Is that true or is it not true?
First of all, it's $31 million for the record. The money was innocently collected here, and sent to New York. And we realized a few years ago, that the fact that the money is in New York at the Archdiocese, for the lack of a better way of putting it, if a lawyer decides to sue a priest or a bishop or the archbishop, those funds not earmarked for archdiocese efforts, but were donated for Leadership 100 philanthropic Hellenic church needs. They simply wanted, we wanted to take that money and segregate it. That's all. When we just about had it segregated, Archbishop Yakovus just didn't sign a blasted form. So when Spiridon came in, we thought it would be routine. All he had to do was sign a form. Then he presented us with what seemed like a reasonable deal. And the problem is that he can't say, I'm controlling it, when he really doesn't, because if he controls it and there's a suit, they can go to that money. Now, he has a total veto on every dollar that's spent. And he said, that's fine. But when he sent us the document, he slipped in one of those little clauses at the end. And it said that he wanted the right to fire any trustee he wanted to. That was unacceptable. And so we keep fiddling around with little details like that. since he has been our Archbishop, it's just a fact, this has been our worst year. I'm not sure we have any new people this year. I stand to be corrected, but it's certainly our worst year. I called the president prior to coming because I thought I might be asked, George Coupounas. It's a simple matter. I don't understand why he doesn't sign that, and let's get on with it. He has upset certainly the majority of the trustees, and we're not collecting money anymore.
Are there any other questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Dina Spence Hockey, and I don't really have a strong feeling about bishops one way or the other, only because my parents were Greek immigrants who were poor, who were considered to be inconsequential in their sphere of influence. And my feeling is that the most important thing that is central to my life is the fact that when I go to church on Sunday, I walk into heaven. When I hear Father John Baptist say, on a scormentis cardias, he gives me goosebumps. Has nothing to do with Spiridon, has nothing to do with Bartholomew. They obviously command my respect because that's the way I was taught. But as far as I'm concerned, they're out of my sphere of influence, and certainly will not impact my children because they. No, I don't think they will because my children.
Just a moment, someone
No,
else has
because my
replied.
children, probably other than my daughter, will leave the church. Because I don't believe that the effort of the church is to be inclusive. The other half of my name is Hockey. I'm married to a convert. He told me just a few days ago that yes, he's a convert. He's probably knows more theologically than I do, but he will never really be accepted. And I do believe that. Even though St. Sophia has been wonderful in our lives, there's always that, and I read it in all this literature, and I heard it from you. And I see that trend as alienating a whole group of young people. I also see the Orthodox Church being ethnocentric, exclusive. Yes, our history is in Greece. I probably speak Greek as well as most of you here. But there are those that want to be included. And because of this Greek focus, we're losing some of the best Christians, Orthodox Christians. And I think we're missing the boat.
Any other comments or questions?
Could you just answer one part of that question?
Yes, sir. Which is the
What
part
is-
you'd like answered.
The part that I'd like to be answered is this. What impact does what you have enlightened us with have on the future generations of our Greek Orthodox or Orthodox family? Would you please comment on that? See, our concern here is
It's
for
not-
our own personal salvation.
It's not positive. we have got.
Before you answer, summarize what you asked.
The question is, what impact do these actions that we're talking about tonight have on the future of our church, of our Orthodox Church, and our personal salvation?
Yes.
I want for my church, for my children, the same thing that my parents wanted for me. An honest, exemplary clergy and church. They trusted Father Zachary to take us into that room and to talk to us like he did. I want that for my children. I'm not getting it. When you have 4 professors fired because of doing what they were charged to do under the rules of the school, investigate and solve a serious disciplinary problem, when they're fired, instead of the problem being disciplined, that is not an exemplary church. That is not a moral church. Our children will walk if we hand this over to them.
John, do you have a response that you'd like to make?
I'd rather make a comment, if I may, that might express at least my feelings. The the Christian in our family is my wife. In a weak moment, about 6 months ago, now this is a lady that her dad built a church in Lexington, Kentucky. She's in every organization that she can help in Cleveland. In a weak moment, she said, John, I think maybe we should leave the church. Now, she regrets that, but I sort of understand it. And I regret it. I regret this whole evening in the sense that it has happened. And I think what we agreed to do, and certainly the judge has done a beautiful job, is he has described, we've tried to describe the facts. I have tried to stay away from rumors. I've tried to describe observations and concerns.
I wanted to make a response to your question, or to your comments. As moderator, I finally get a chance to say something. Sure. My father was one of the founders and guarantors of the church in Decatur, Illinois. So I've been brought up in the same kind of church aspect that Steve and John have. And in fact, when he came here to Los Angeles, he was one of the instigators amongst the Greeks of Downey to go and move forward, so they established their church then. At the age of 90, he was still working on these kinds of projects. My wife is not Greek by ethnicity. She's a Greek Orthodox. And in her case, she says that she hasn't had to make a leap of faith to become an Orthodox. She's had to make a leap of Greekness, right? In other words, it's not them accepting her, it's she accepting the other side. And she's done that because she's enjoyed the people that she's with and through her love for me. Our daughter, I'm concerned about because she stands back and listens to these things and sees what's going on, talk about these conversations, and for her, it's the turnoff. And that is of great concern to me. I'm not so concerned about my own personal salvation because I've been brought up, I'm 63 years old now, and I know the direction I'm going in, and I sort of can make my own peace with things. What I'm concerned about is the generation that follows us. And the other thing that concerns me greatly is the sacrifices and the giving that people through generations past, my own, my father's, my grandfathers, have done in order to bring us to the point where we have come in this country. And I think in answer to something that you said, Dr. Barakas, it's not that we will have a fight with anyone. I think that we have seen a steady progress in terms of movement. We seem to have been moving in the right direction. In terms of our theological school, in terms of the Hellenic College, we have reached the point where it is a standard accepted academic institution within the United States, and one that we can be proud of. Our church in Oakland has given well over $100,000 in the last 3 to 4 years to support the library, to support other things, as have churches here in Southern California and elsewhere. Those monies were given through sacrifice. There was a lot of work that was involved in gathering that money. And we didn't give it for our own personal glory. I think that we gave that money because we see that institution as producing the kinds of priests that we have, like Father Backus, who was a graduate of Holy Cross, if I'm not mistaken, and many other people. Father Paul Paris here at St. Sophia's, the priests at the other churches, the priests in Oakland, everywhere in the country. We've seen these people who are leaders who have been trained properly. And I think that, excuse me, I'll be done. My concern is that for those of you that speak Greek, everything has gone in the wrong direction. And I think we just can't sit back and watch it move further and further in the wrong direction. And that's why I'm not a great activist, but this is something that I finally decided I had to commit myself to and participate in. So that's my own personal perspective in this matter. Did you have a question in the back?
conclusion early, though not finally, in order to understand the what-if nature of things. For example, in the text that believes that O.J. guilty. I don't have a lot of faith that, having listened to what's happened, we've had an eyewitness report, and then we've had someone who has been collecting information, writing letters, asking questions. When people behave the way these people have been behaving, I think we're doing the right thing in trying to work with them. But deep down, I don't believe it's going to happen, that things are going to change. And if they don't, what are we going to do about it? What are our alternatives?
I'd like to add to that comment. Let's assume, based on these incidents that have occurred, that we fight and we try to change and we try to forestall what is going on. Are we risking splitting the Greek community in the United States into two different groups?
Excuse me, that isn't my question.
Well, that's just a comment I thought was that right.
That's something to think about. Dr. Collis, you want to add? No. The first was a question.
I want to say one thing, though. You have to be very careful about the divisiveness that this is going to be.
Let them answer the question.
I'm sorry.
The question is, if we don't succeed, what are we going to do about it?
This is my suggestion. We're trying to get an audience with His All Holiness. He is busy. Despite the crisis that we see, he must have problems that we don't see. And we know he has international problems. Personally, I think a month after he leaves, certainly by then he should have some time to talk with us. If he doesn't, I think we should withhold the money. And I think we should simply make a fund, what do you call it, the savings account. Put that money in a savings account. It's very simple. Okay, trust account. I knew it would get technical. And once the problem is solved, start sending the money back. Now, what's the problem? Right now, the problem is the Archbishop. We need an Archbishop who knows the American way of life, the church here in America. We need a new Archbishop. And we have to have something to say about that.
I do think so. There's some other things that can be done too. And that is that groups like this can at least stand on the record and say, we are concerned about this, 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 and this. And those messages are transmitted. It's important for each person to write separately and communicate, but it's also important when groups of committed persons from their community are willing to say, we are concerned about these things, we're even willing to have our names written down, sign our names to a piece of paper, and send those things back to the Archdiocese. That's the only way that people are going to know that there is this kind of concern. And in fact, I think that's why we're talking about the resolutions that we're passing, which are not threatening, not nasty resolutions, but they sort of at least start to send the message back. The second thing I think that's important to occur is to start to prepare ourselves for the